morning and welcome to another beautifully sunny pre-sunrise ride here in Essex. Although thankfully I've waited for the sun to come up before I start this video because you really wouldn't have seen me this morning. However, this morning we're out and we're taking on one of the more hilly routes around Essex. There's not that many, as you know, Essex is fairly flat. However, it got me thinking, as we're doing a hilly route, I thought I'd give you my top 7 tips to make climbing easier. So tip number 1, gearing. Now I covered this a little bit a few weeks ago in the video that I put up changing my old 11:28 cassette to an 11:34. Now I'm not going to go hugely into gearing ratios because I am not the best mathematician in the world. But essentially, to make climbing easier, you want as small a chainring at the front and as large a cog at the back. So when I changed my 11:28 tooth cassette at the back to an 11:34 tooth, essentially I was using a 34-34 ratio because I'm using the small 34 tooth chainring at the front. So that gives us a 1-to-1 ratio. Now again, I'm not going to get into the science of ratios because it very quickly becomes very complicated. But a 1-to-1 ratio means for each 1 turn of the pedals, you get 1 exact turn of the back wheel, and any less than that it just gets easier and easier. So if you're turning your pedals 1.5 revolutions and you're only getting 1 full turn from the wheel at the back, that's going to be incredibly easy to pedal. And that really helps when going up hills, because what you don't want to do is be constantly grinding it out, because that will fatigue you very quickly. Now, as I say, my current cassette is an 11:34, and that is what I climbed Great Dunfell with a few weeks ago, and honestly I don't think I could have got up there without it. However, it really all depends on the person. My friend Chris did it on his 11:28 cassette on a heavy steel framed bike, which he won't let me forget about. Right, here comes another little short, sharp, cheeky little hill. So Jimmy, I'm talking about tips for better climbing. Yeah. You got any tips?
Yeah. Something, anything is better than nothing. Isle of Wight springs to mind. Underestimate the ride, no consideration of fuel or taking anything on board. Guess what happened? Double bomb.
Right, well, we've just come up, I can't even speak.
Yes, it was a challenge, but purely down to fueling. There are multiple different things that you can take out on the ride. I know Pete likes the Vela Forte chews. People take gels, they do not work for me. For me personally, cereal bars, little and often, so I don't feel overloaded. Bagels, a roll in the back, nibble on that, so that I've just got something there that I know will fit in the back and I can snack on regularly. I take on fuel before I feel the need as well. That's the other thing I would say, because if it's at the point where you're feeling hungry or you're feeling thirsty, I would say it's too late at that point. As I said, for me, a couple of rolls, a banana, cereal bars, and chomping on those regularly, even if I don't feel like it.
Boom. How's that? Straight from the PE teacher's mouth. There you go. But yes, fuel up before the ride, during the ride, and don't neglect eating after the ride as well, because that will not do you for the rest of the day, and you'll just find yourself slumped on the sofa all afternoon. Okay, and talking of fuel, I think it's time for a bit of breakfast. Yet another climb up into Saffron Walden. Come on! Here we go! So tip number 3, practice. Now, this might sound obvious, but to get better at climbs, you have to do more climbs. And this leads nicely back to, again, the Isle of Wight ride that Jimmy and I did, because that was incredibly hilly. And just from that one ride, which was, in fairness, absolutely punishing, when we came back and did our normal ride around Essex the following week, the hills that we normally find a little bit cheeky around our area felt like absolutely nothing. Now, that's not necessarily practice in progress. That was just a case of, well, it couldn't have been much harder than the Isle of Wight around Essex. But it just shows you that even with a tiny bit of practice, hills just do become a lot easier, even if it's only in the mind. So get out there, start small, and as a sub tip, if you're really serious about climbing, then the best thing to do is find a small climb near you and just do some hill repeats. Go up and down it as many times as you can muster. That will make you much better at climbing. It will make your legs stronger, it will make your mind stronger, and when you do go up your next proper hill, you'll know that you've got the strength to be able to do it. I might wait until we get somewhere else to do the next part of the video. Bit of campanology on a Sunday morning, lovely. It is campanology, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo, check me out. So one bonus tip, which isn't strictly to do with climbing, but it will definitely help with your cycling, is getting the right cleats. Now the reason I point this out is because Chris has just come up to me and reminded me that a few rides ago he was having some proper knee pain, and we deduced that it was probably down to the cleats he was using. In that video, James Social Cycling suggested he buy a new pair of cleats and recommended the Candy 3s.
Yes.
So Chris has taken a punt on them, and they cost...
Let's not talk about that.
let's not talk about the price. But we are now 28 miles into the ride and no knee pain.
No knee pain, so thank you, James. I'm in the red zone though. Good change, good change.
He's still got the ride home to Farnham to do yet, so who knows. But yeah, so far, good suggestion, James. Thanks very much. So fairly apt for this video. This wasn't part of the planned route, but seeing as we've just come past Arkston, Jimmy has decided that we're going to go up the Arkston Hill Climb Championship hill. Just what we need.
Come on. We live near a hill climb championship. Why wouldn't we want to do it?
He loves it, bless him, loves it. Well, here it is. I'll do it. Well, I haven't got to the top of Arkston Hill Climb Hill. My fourth tip is pacing. Something I didn't do just there. So it is difficult when you're in a group because those natural competitive tendencies do tend to come out. But the best thing to do when climbing hill is just pace yourself. Take it nice and slow at the beginning, because the last thing you want to do is blow up halfway up the hill and then have to give up. So taking it at a nice steady pace and making sure you don't pass out is key. Now, as I say, that is difficult in a group because you will always try and beat your mates up a climb. Oh, and now we're going back down the hill. So yes, pacing. Don't let anyone bully you into going their speed. Sit at your own speed, a speed you're comfortable with, and one that you know, or you're fairly confident that you can continue to get to the top of the hill. Tip number 5. Is it tip number 5? Have I done 4? I don't know. Anyway, plan your ride. Now for me, this is a huge one because I am a massive control freak. I love to plan rides to within an inch of my life. I like to know every single millimetre of elevation. Well, maybe I'm not that bad, but I do like to plan a ride properly. So I use the app Komoot to plan my rides, which I've previously posted a video on, and it's fantastic for giving you all of the elevation data, all of the roadway data, what kind of roads you're going to be going on. And then once you transfer that route onto your bike computer, Garmin has this fantastic feature called Climb Pro. Now it only works with planned routes and where you've got a registered climb on your route. And today, because I haven't got a planned route on my ride, I know, sacrilege for me, but because I don't have a planned route on this bike computer, I can't show you it, but I'll cut a little bit of footage in here to show you. But essentially, it shows you all of the gradients on a climb and ranks them from green right up to a very deep burgundy. And it will show you a little pinpoint exactly where you are on the climb, so you know what's coming up, what part of the route that you're on, and how much further you've got to go. However, if you don't have a bike computer, you can always look up the elevation data on Strava's Velo Viewer, and then you can even print it out and keep a copy of it on your stem, so you know roughly how much more climbing you've got to do and what part of the climb you're on. Again, that is a massive mental element, because for me at least, there's nothing worse than not knowing what's coming up and not knowing quite how far you've got to go to the end of the climb. Oh, talking of which, yet another one. Tip number 6, bike weight. Now, I'm not a weight weenie by any stretch, and by weight weenie I mean someone who is incredibly focused on every gram that their bike weighs. And don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against people who are weight weenies, but it's just not for me, because you can very quickly get into the realms of silly prices. I remember when I was building this bike, I was trying to decide between Shimano 105 R7000 pedals or Ultegra pedals, and the price was about 50% more for the Ultegra pedals, but there was a 20 gram saving, just a 20 gram saving. And I decided, well, rather than spending an extra 40-45 quid on a set of pedals to save 20 grams, I'll just have one less spoonful of porridge in the morning. So as I say, it can get very expensive, but aside from that, just trying to make sure that you don't have any unnecessary weight on your bike. So if you know you're just going for a hill climb, then you can largely ditch most of the stuff in your saddlebag. So you can get rid of the spare inner tube, you can get rid of one of the CO2 canisters that you're carrying, and all of the other paraphernalia that you generally find that you end up carting around on the back of your bike. If you're going on a slightly longer ride, then it can be a bit more difficult, because you still will want a number of tools to help you if you have a breakdown. But a simple multi-tool, a set of patches and some tyre levers are probably all that you're going to need. Reducing the weight of your bike can be a massive help when climbing. So for instance, the front light I've got on here at the moment is a Lezyne 1600 XXL, which is fantastic for rides like today when I started out pre-sunrise, but you're not going to need that if you're climbing a hill in broad daylight, so that can go. Equally, the light at the back, again, it probably doesn't weigh that much, but if you're climbing during the day and you know you're just going up the climb and coming back down again, well then you're probably not going to need it. So ditch as much of that added weight as you can, and you'll notice an immediate difference in the speed that you can climb. So finally, tip number 7. This one is going to be controversial, but it's your weight. Now, I'm not body shaming anyone. As long as you're out on the bike getting the miles in, I don't care what you look like. However, if you are interested in climbing, then your body weight does make a huge difference. Case in point, a couple of months ago I was looking to shift a bit of weight to help with the Keswick Triathlon that we did back in September, and over the space of a couple of weeks I lost about half a stone, and I noticed an immediate difference in how easily I could climb even the biggest hills around here. Now thankfully, if you're watching this video, then you're probably already a cyclist, and so you are already in the perfect position for some fitness and weight loss exercise. So again, if you are serious about climbing and you want to be faster going up hills, then it hopefully shouldn't be too difficult for you to lose a little bit of weight to gain that added extra benefit. So there are my 7 tips. Get your gearing right, get your eating right, do some practice, pace yourself properly, plan your ride, lose as much weight off the bike as you can, and try and lose some weight from yourself, and you're not going to go far wrong, and that is going to massively help your climbing. And one other thing that's going to help you get out on the bike in the first place is setting yourself a year-long goal. And as luck would have it, I posted a video on that very subject just a couple of weeks ago, so I'll link that just here somewhere. Go and give that a watch and get some inspiration for setting some goals either this year or for 2024. So I hope you found some of that useful. If you've got any more tips that you'd like to share, put them in the comments below, and who knows, you could just help someone master climbing. So as ever, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Wrong gear, wrong gear. That served me right from trying to do a video. Oh, grind it up there, baby, grind it up there.